Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mad Science Lab on the Fantasy Football Universe. Oh, it's been a rough day, I'll tell you that. I am Aaron St. Dennis at FF Mad Scientist, joined today by Dave Heilman at Dynasty Dorks for some Indianapolis Colts talk. How's it going, Dave?
That's going well, man. How are you?
It's going well for you as long as you don't lean forward. In case you
Yeah.
can't tell, we're having some lighting issues. It's twilight for both of us, so I've got the sun setting and my light's a little too bright, and Dave's having some issues. We're gonna struggle through this one today, guys, but we'll get there. So, looks like Dave gets cut in half every once in a while by a lightsaber when he leans forward, but we'll get through it. Before we get into it, I guess Dave, you want to take a second here, let everyone know where to find you.
Yeah, at Dynasty Dorks on TikTok and Twitter. And I do all my work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Got a new show, 5-Minute Fantasy Football, 5-minute episodes 3 times a week. So that's on SGPN Fantasy Football. And then if you interact with DTC on social media, that's me. So send us your trades.
DTC, what's that stand for?
So Dynasty Trade Calculator.
Oh, okay. That sounds like I recognize this. I have this app. What is that? Dynasty? Okay, I do. So that's me. That's you. I'm interacting with every once in a while.
Yeah, that's me. And I'm not the bot for the chat DTC. That is not me.
Sure,
but you can go try the new chat DTC feature and let them send them your trades.
Nice. I didn't know that. It's a mystery sometimes behind these big accounts who the mystery person is behind the curtain. But let's get into it. Talk Indianapolis Colts. The quarterback room is a good one. We've got Anthony Richardson, finished QB 38 last year, obviously missed a good portion of the season, going as QB 6 this year, backed up by Joe Flacco and Sam Ehlinger. What are your thoughts in the QB room? More likely, I guess, more specifically, how high can he go for Anthony Richardson? And how comfortable are you taking him at QB 6 where he's going?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a more risk adverse kind of player. So I'm not necessarily picking up a lot of Anthony Richardson in Superflex because of the amount, the price you got to pay. But I mean, he could go very high. I think that you look at Jalen Hurts, and you got to look at it 2 different ways. Jalen Hurts had a phenomenal breakout season with Shane Steichen. He had a ton of rushing, but he only had 17 passing touchdowns, and he finished as QB 8. So it wasn't this huge ceiling that we're all kind of projecting. The next year, he's got A.J. Brown. Devonta Smith is 1 year better. And all of a sudden, Jalen Hurts is the top 3 quarterback. So just because Anthony Richardson runs for 1,000 yards and has 10 rushing touchdowns, that doesn't mean he's going to end up as the QB 6. He still has to throw the ball, and you're looking for someone that can combine for 35 to 40 touchdowns, on the ground and in the air. And looking for someone that can combine for 4,000 total yards.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm pretty risk averse myself, so I don't have a lot of him at QB 6 there. I tend to, in a lot of these drafts, I like top 5, and then I kind of wait a little. The one exception I found is when I do some Scott Fishbowl mocks, I'm a lot higher on him in that format where it devalues the passing quarterbacks quite a bit. And, for that format, he's significantly higher. I think I have him ahead of Mahomes in that one. I get it. It's going to be tough because Mahomes is going to throw 40 touchdowns, 4,000 yards minimum. So, but in that format, it's cut in half. So,
yeah, Scott Fish is it's a very unique format. It's really fun. But yeah, it's definitely non-traditional.
Yeah, 50 yards per point or whatever it is for passing.
Yards per carry is really interesting for take a guy like Anthony Richardson and Joe Burrow that could be very similar players as far as fantasy output in your traditional leagues, depending on 4-point or 6-point passing. But you take and you nerf the passing yardage, and then you increase the rushing attempts. It's not even close.
Yeah, there you go. All right, we'll get into the running back room here. We have Jonathan Taylor, finished as RB34 last year, dealt with some injuries, obviously, early in the season. Going as RB5 off the board right now, backed up by Evan Hull. Trey Sermon and Tyler Goodson. What are your thoughts here? Like this, if ever there was a scenario, I know the days of the bell cow are dead for most part. If ever a situation screamed bell cow, this has got to be it, because this should be Jonathan Taylor just getting the rock all day long.
Yeah, and people are, they're afraid of, Anthony Richardson siphoning off touchdowns in the goal line, and they're afraid, Anthony Richardson's not going to be a dump off kind of guy, because that's traditionally what we found with rushing quarterbacks. But I think it's, Jonathan Taylor's, it's a case of what have you done for me lately? And people are forgetting how good this guy is. If it wasn't for, a ankle injury that got a lot better when his contract got fixed.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, and then you see what Zach Moss did in this offense last year. Jonathan Taylor is obviously a better player. Zach Moss got paid, and Jonathan Taylor, like you said, is in line. And a lot of people are talking about the big three, and I would, talk to Pat Fitzmaurice, and we would consider it a big four. Jonathan Taylor should be considered up there with Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson. I think there is a path for him to be, a top one. If Christian McCaffrey were to go down, who would be the RB1? And Jonathan Taylor, I think, is in the discussion, and you're getting him at a little bit of a discount. I wouldn't say huge discount, but a little bit of a discount because people are, they want the new hotness.
Yeah, he's exactly who I have at 4, so I won't argue with that at all. Any interest in any of these guys here? Or Evan Hall, just a handcuff?
Nada. I have zero interest in any of them. I mean, Evan Hall is an interesting guy. I know, like a little Twitter darling. And I love the whole, like at the combine, going down and putting it in the end zone. The only interest I have in Evan Hall is he is a decent pass catcher. So the hope is that, he can, make some plays in that game. But unless Jonathan Taylor goes down, none of these guys are relevant. And so none of them are going to make my roster right now. I like Tyler Goodson, but I mean, he really, dropped the ball. And remember the Colts almost made the playoffs last year. Famously, Jonathan Taylor was on the sideline. Gardner Minshew, questionable throw, but Tyler Goodson dropped the ball, and he's out of favor right now.
All the more reason why Jonathan Taylor may never leave the field this season. Moving on to the wide receiving room here, we have Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver 21 last year, still going as wide receiver 14 this year. Josh Downs, Adonai Mitchell, Alec Pierce, Anthony Gold, DJ Montgomery, and Juwan Winfrey. I don't mind Pittman. I'm not sure he's necessarily at the greatest cost right now. I was never big on Josh Downs. I did like AD Mitchell, but he didn't necessarily go, as high in the draft as I thought he would. Where did he go? I forget. He went day 2?
Yeah,
I had it up. I lost it.
Yeah, I'll have to look and see where he went. I don't want to lean forward and get cut off. But
it's all right. I'll look.
Yeah, Mitchell may have slipped to the 4th round. If not, it was a late day 3 select or late day 2 selection. Yeah, I mean, I like Mitchell a lot. I think the question again goes back to how Anthony Richardson can support this passing offense. You just don't have anything to go off of based on his college and his NFL production so far. And then Josh Downs.
Sorry to cut you off. It was end of round 2. So just based, it's not terrible. It's obviously still round 2, but based on where all the other receivers are, they were flying off the board. Like he went behind Xavier Legette, Ricky Pearsall. So sorry, go ahead, continue.
You're good. I mean, so, all the talk is can Caleb Williams support, a 1,000-yard receiver, and can Caleb Williams produce for multiple receivers? Anthony Richardson is essentially a rookie. And if you go back to his college profile, I mean, he's barely, played a full season. So, you just don't know. Downs at 58, I don't hate it, but, we saw Downs get a huge uptick in production when Gardner Minshew was there because he was in the slot. He was, averaging, almost 11 targets a game with Gardner Minshew. And so I like it in PPR. I don't like Downs anywhere else.
Sorry, it looked for a second there like I was talking to myself off screen. I wasn't. Sure enough, we start recording, and my 9-year-olds decided to bother me for money on Fortnite. So never
Of
fails,
course.
never fails. Nobody bothers me all day. I start recording. I have a 9-year-old who desperately needs Fortnite money. So, all right, let's move on here to tight end. Jelani Woods. I love Jelani Woods. I'm a big, tight end. It's all about athleticism and size. He never really panned out. He's going as tight end 35 right now. Then they have a pile of backups here. Kylan Granson, Will Mallory, Mo Alley Cox, who's massive, Drew Ogletree, and Eric Tomlinson. Anybody of relevance here in the tight end room for you?
No, I mean Jelani Woods might, he might surprise you one game, a year. But Kylan Granson kind of gets the majority of the targets, and there's not many that go around. It's a constant. They're really hyper, targeting the wide receiver position. The target share for the tight end position was extremely low as a whole last year, and it was split up. So it was a small pie, and it was split up between four guys, and so really nobody had any relevance. Even though Kylan Granson was the number one guy from that group last year, but you can see 33, 55, 42, 46. It was just and none
Yeah,
of those guys were relevant on any week.
not pretty. So, moment of truth. Based on relative ADP, give or take a bit, who's a player on this team you're targeting in redraft, and who are you avoiding?
I like Jonathan Taylor. Like I said, I think when you look at those guys, I think there's a pretty clear cutoff between him and the next group. It depends on how strong you feel about HN and how far you feel about Kyron Williams. But like after you get past that group of guys, it's really tough. So I mean, Jonathan Taylor, he's a guy that I really like. I don't think it's a hot take or anything, but again, if you're gonna go with a stud running back, this is it. There's not many running backs that have this kind of could potentially get 80 to 90% of the running back touches in their backfield, and he's
Yep.
one of them.
It's tough here to find an avoid since on this roster, there's basically only 3 fantasy relevant players: Taylor, Richardson, and Pittman. I think Pittman's a little overpriced. Richardson, I think, is also overpriced a bit. It's really tough. Who are you avoiding on this team?
Yeah, I mean, again, I was not trying that I would avoid Anthony Richardson or Michael Pittman, but when it just comes down to value and replacement value, that's where it's tough. Anthony Richardson is the guy where, if you're going to go get Anthony Richardson in the first round, go a little early with your QB2, a Jared Goff or a Brock Purdy, and kind of, save yourself if something were to, catastrophically happen. But this guy's got the upside that he could easily be a top guy. And then going back to the receivers, Pittman again is a little overpriced. I do like him. But if you're going to go with, Downs or Mitchell, if Mitchell's, 20 or 30 spots lower, I'm just going to take a shot on him. He's a George Pickens type of player. And what they said about him was that he was, when his diabetes got out of control, that he was angry and he was bad attitude and everything that is a side effect of not keeping that under control. The Colts will absolutely make sure that he's good to go. And you could see a better player than you even saw in college with better management of that. And he's not on a college diet.
Awesome. That's something to look forward to. I didn't know that. All right, we will close it out here with some schedule predictions. So I'll tell you the game. All you need is a win or a loss. Week 1, home to the Texans.
Loss.
All right, week 2, at Green Bay.
Loss.
Week 3, home to Chicago.
That's going to be an interesting game. Anthony Richardson, Caleb Williams. I don't know if that's in Indy or not, which would be interesting to be there. But I'm going to go with a win.
Okay. Week 4, home to the Steelers.
Win.
Win. All right. Week 5, in Jacksonville.
Loss.
Week 6 at Tennessee.
Win.
Week 7, home to the Dolphins.
Loss.
All right. Week
Not
8.
cold enough yet. Week 8, Texans is a loss.
Yeah. All right. Week 9 at Minnesota.
Well, man, I see these are two of my favorite coaches. I don't necessarily love the teams, but Shane Steichen and Kevin O'Connell, like if those guys had legit quarterbacks, they would both be in conversation for, the Super Bowl, but they both, got question marks at the quarterback position. I'm going to go with a win on this one, but I don't feel great about it.
Week 10, hosting the Bills.
Yeah, you can go 3 losses in a row here. Bills, Jets, and Lions. That's going to be a tough month.
Wow. All right. Let's follow that up. Week 13 at New England.
That's a win. That's a win. New England is actually projected to lose every single game this year. They might win one, but I'm going to give the Colts the nod on this one.
So they have the latest bye week 14. You have them going 5-8 into the bye. Week 15, they come out and they go to Denver.
Yeah, I'm going to give them 3 wins coming out of the bye. They get Broncos, Titans, and then my Giants.
And
I'm going to give them wins there.
8-8 going into week 18. Do they win at home against Jacksonville or lose?
Well, maybe they get Jonathan Taylor out there and they actually win this one. But I'm going to go with Jacksonville winning this one.
So you have
a Richardson fans.
You have the Colts falling to 8-9 and probably missing out, I think, based on how everyone else projects. There are 4 games out of the playoffs because every team's going to win 13 games this year. I bet you didn't know that, but that's how the analysts have it. So, well, thanks for joining me, Dave. Before we get out of here, you want to plug yourself again quickly?
Yeah, make sure you check out 5 Minute Fantasy Football. It's a new project of mine, and it's quick, 5 minutes per episode, and a lot of best ball right now, but different things. And give me a follow at Dynasty Dorks.
Hell yeah, sounds great. Thank you for joining me once again. For all the team pages, head over to fantasyfootballuniverse.com. Check back tomorrow for checks my notes. That will be Andrew Hull with the Cincinnati Bengals. Thank you all for tuning in. We will see you again tomorrow.